Are the aliens trying to communicate with us? And if they do, how would they talk to us? Well, they could be sending messages that would be captured by big radio antennas. But recently, something amazing happened. Our next report tells you how NASA received a laser-coded message from deep space. Take a look.
Are human beings alone in the universe? Are there extraterrestrial beings? And if they are trying to communicate to us, will they send a message through the immense depth of the interstellar space? Questions that have survived unanswered down the ages. Now, from 226 million kilometers away, NASA has just received a laser message. But don't you get carried away yet. It is not aliens. There's a simpler explanation. NASA's Psyche spacecraft transmitted the laser from its current location, 226 million kilometers away, in the asteroid belt between the planets Mars and Jupiter. In October 2023, NASA sent the space mission towards an asteroid, Psyche 16. The asteroid is primarily composed of metal, a rarity in our solar system. Going back to the deep space message, it is a remarkable feat of the communication technology. Aboard the Psyche spacecraft, shattering records, it has proved its capability in transmitting messages from deep space using lasers. While the spacecraft's primary communication system relies on radio frequency, the optical communications demo has showcased its potential as a game-changer in deep space communication. This technology could enable future deep space missions to carry more sophisticated instruments and send back substantially more data to Earth than currently possible. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Were COVID-19 vaccines dangerous for your health? Scary reports are emerging. Old patients are raising new questions. It all started with AstraZeneca's legal files. AstraZeneca, like most of you know, is a British-Swedish pharma giant. When the virus from China jumped borders, AstraZeneca collaborated with the University of Oxford to make COVID-19 vaccine. This vaccine was known as AZD1222. These jabs were sold around the world. The AstraZeneca vaccine was also manufactured in India. Here it was known as Covishield. Now, in a legal document submitted to a British court, AstraZeneca has admitted that its COVID vaccine could cause blood clot-related side effects in rare cases. Yes, they are saying that this is rare, but remember that the story begins with them saying that there were no such side effects. Now, we are not going to pass quick judgments, of course. There was an unprecedented international crisis, and Big Pharma surely did its best to help. But the after effects have raised questions which cannot be ignored. We first told you about the story on Monday, but let me read out from AstraZeneca's legal files once again. It is admitted that the AstraZeneca vaccine can, in very rare cases, cause TTS. The causal mechanism is not known. Now, TTS is short for thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. It involves the formation of blood clots and a fall in the platelet count. The blood clots can appear in the brain or abdomen. The symptoms of TTS include blurred vision, severe headache, difficulty speaking, chest pain, shortness of breath, abdominal pain, swelling in the legs. Many people who took the AstraZeneca vaccine claim they were diagnosed with TTS. And Jamie Scott is among them. He has lodged a case against AstraZeneca. Scott was 44 when he received the vaccine. 10 days after the jab, he complained of tiredness and started vomiting. And soon after, his speech was impaired. When he was hauled to the hospital, doctors diagnosed him with a suspected case of TTS. After Scott, 51 such cases have been lodged against AstraZeneca. And the news of these cases is making headlines again. People are asking whether the benefits of the COVID-19 vaccines still outweigh the risks. Concerns grew over blood clots. As early as 2021, reports began circulating of vaccine recipients developing blood clots. In Germany, the country's vaccine regulator, the Paul-Ehrlich-Institut, was calling for further investigation into the cases. Now, Which brings us to part 2 of the story, the German files. Unlike the AstraZeneca court files, this is a side of the story that not many people know about. In Germany, an online magazine fought for the disclosure of documents from Robert Koch Institute, federal government agency and research institute. It is responsible for disease control and prevention. The magazine, called Multipolar, wanted to know on what basis and on what scientific ground COVID-19 regulations like lockdown and masking were imposed. Last year, Multipolar was sent 2,500 pages of RKI's COVID-19 protocols. But guess what? The files were heavily redacted. In fact, 1/3 of the file was redacted. What for? Were German authorities hiding something? You see, the point I'm trying to make here is simple. Times like these call for utmost transparency. In times like these, where negative sentiment about the COVID-19 vaccine is spreading, the onus falls on the authorities to clear the air, because only answers will put an end to uncomfortable questions. Only answers will ensure that people don't start panicking and doubting the vaccines and their decision to get jabbed. Because you see, that can be very dangerous, and it can come in the way of future vaccination drives. Which is why on Gravitas tonight, we are demanding answers. Were the COVID-19 vaccines dangerous for our health? Or did the benefits outweigh the risks? For the longest time, the words used to describe COVID-19 vaccines were safe, reliable, effective. And I'm not just talking about vaccines from one pharma house here. Over 13 billion doses of COVID vaccines have been administered around the world. 2.2 billion doses of vaccines were taken in India. People are still getting vaccinated. And why not? COVID-19 vaccines are supposed to reduce the chances of severe COVID, of hospitalization, of deaths. Look at what the World Health Organization says. COVID-19 vaccines provide protection against severe disease and death resulting from COVID-19 infection. Look at what America's Centers of Disease Control and Prevention continues to say. Vaccination remains the safest strategy for avoiding hospitalizations, long-term health outcomes, and death. If these claims still hold true, then it's time to reinstill this point with scientific evidence. It's time to quell the fast-growing suspicion. And the people deserve that. Medical science and research deserve that. It is estimated that in India, Covishield was used to vaccinate 90% of the population. After AstraZeneca's admission in India, the parents of a woman who allegedly passed away after taking Covishield have reportedly decided to take legal action against the Serum Institute. A petition has also been filed in India's top court. The petitioner wants an expert panel to examine the side effects of the Covishield vaccine. In addition, the plea seeks a vaccine damage payment system for those who, quote-unquote, got severely disabled as a result of a vaccine drive during COVID-19. As per reports, AstraZeneca said in a statement, and I'm quoting again, "Our sympathy goes out to anyone who has lost loved ones or reported health problems." You see, India rolled out the world's biggest vaccination drive with the hope to save lives. India provided free vaccines to its people, streamlined the vaccination process with the help of digitization. India also helped other countries under the Vaccine Maitri program. What for? So that we could save as many people as possible. Did the vaccine makers play with the people's and the government's trust? Were the vaccines they sold dangerous for your health? These questions need to be answered, and the answers need to come in fast. Time now for Gravitas Recall. It's the 2nd of May. 13 years ago, on this very day, Osama bin Laden was killed. The man needs no introduction. He is one of the world's most wanted terrorists, He orchestrated the 9/11 attacks. The entire operation lasted only 40 minutes from start to finish, but it was the culmination of years of calculated planning and training. The mission was dubbed Operation Neptune Spear. It was approved by President Obama. Stealth Black Hawk helicopters took off from Afghanistan. They carried a group of 25 Navy SEALs. An hour and a half later, the choppers landed on the compound in Abbottabad. One helicopter crashed, but there were no injuries. The mission continued uninterrupted, and soon the fighters spotted Osama bin Laden. He was on the 3rd floor of the compound, and before you know it, he was shot in the head. Later at night, President Obama addressed the US about the raid, and just a few hours later, after midnight, Laden's body was buried at sea